Let me tell you about the most exhausting thing you'll ever do. And you're probably doing it right now. You send a text, and then you stare at your phone, waiting for the response. Not just waiting, analyzing. Did they read it? Why haven't they replied? Did I say something wrong? Should I send another message? You post something on social media, and then you check it again and again. How many likes? Who liked it? Why didn't they like it? Should I delete it? You share an idea in a meeting, and the moment you finish speaking, you're scanning the room. Are they nodding? Do they agree? Did I sound stupid? Maybe I should have stayed quiet. Here's what's actually happening. You're not living your life. You're performing it, and you're waiting for applause that will never be enough. This is called validation seeking, and it's quietly destroying your self-respect, your relationships, and your ability to get what you actually want in life. But here's the thing nobody tells you. The people you admire most, the ones who seem to command respect effortlessly, the ones who walk into a room and everyone pays attention, they're not doing what you think they're doing. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're not performing. They're not seeking approval. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. And that's what makes all the difference. Today, I'm going to show you 3 psychological principles that will completely change how people see you. Not manipulation, not fake confidence. Just understanding how respect actually works, and more importantly, how to stop giving your power away to people who don't deserve it. This might be uncomfortable, because I'm going to ask you to look at some patterns you've been running your whole life. But if you stick with me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why you've been working so hard for so little respect, and what to do about it. Let's get into it. The validation trap. First, we need to understand what validation seeking actually is, because most people don't even realize they're doing it. Validation seeking is when you constantly look outside yourself for confirmation that you're okay, that you're worthy, that you matter. It's outsourcing your self-worth to other people's opinions. And here's the brutal truth. Everyone can smell it. Even if they can't articulate why, people can sense when you need their approval. And the moment they sense it, something shifts. Respect drops, attraction fades, power dynamics flip. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. You're in a conversation and you tell a joke. It doesn't land. What do? Do you own the moment and move on? Or do you immediately try to explain it, justify it, make it funnier? That's validation seeking. You need them to think you're funny. You have an opinion that's different from the group. Do you state it calmly and let it stand? Or do you hedge, soften it, add disclaimers, backtrack the second someone pushes back? That's validation seeking. You need them to approve of your thoughts. Someone criticizes you. Do you consider it objectively and decide if it's useful? Or does your whole day get derailed because someone you barely know doesn't like something you did? That's validation seeking. You need their approval to feel okay about yourself. Here's what's happening psychologically. When you seek validation, you're essentially saying, "I'm not sure if I'm valuable. Can you tell me?" And people unconsciously respond to that question with, "Well, if you're not sure, I'm not sure either." This is backed by research in social psychology. Studies on self-verification theory show that people treat you the way you signal you should be treated. If you signal uncertainty about your worth, others become uncertain too. If you signal neediness, people pull away. It's automatic, it's unconscious, but it's real. And here's the worst part. Validation seeking creates a vicious cycle. You seek validation because you feel unsure of your worth. But the act of seeking validation makes people respect you less, which makes you feel less worthy, which makes you seek more validation. And the cycle spirals. You end up working harder and harder for less and less respect. You become more accommodating, more agreeable, more available, more giving. And somehow, people value you even less. This is the validation trap, and you can't earn your way out of it by being more impressive. You have to fundamentally change the game you're playing. So let's talk about how respect actually works. The psychology of respect. Respect isn't earned through achievement. That's the lie we've been sold. You know people with incredible achievements who get no respect, and you know people with modest accomplishments who command a room. So what's the difference? Respect is earned through congruence. Let me explain what that means. Congruence is when your words, your actions, and your internal sense of self all align. When there's no gap between who you are and how you present yourself. When you're not performing, not pretending, not seeking approval, you're just solid. Think about someone you genuinely respect. Not admire, not envy. Respect. What is it about them? I'll bet it's not just what they've accomplished, it's how they carry themselves. They say what they mean. They mean what they say. They don't change their personality based on who's in the room. They don't need you to agree with them to feel okay about their opinions. They're the same person whether you're watching or not. That's congruence. And your brain is wired to detect it. There's a concept in psychology called behavioral consistency. Research shows that people unconsciously monitor whether your behavior is consistent across situations. When it is, we trust you. When it isn't, we don't. This is why people pleasers get so little respect despite trying so hard. They're inconsistent. They agree with everyone, which means they don't really stand for anything. They change based on who they're talking to, and everyone can feel it. Here's another key piece. Respect is about boundaries, not likability. This is where most people get it wrong. They think if they're more agreeable, more helpful, more available, people will respect them more. The opposite is true. Studies on reciprocity and social value show that people respect you more when you have standards. When you say no. When you're willing to walk away. When you're not desperate for their approval. It's counterintuitive, I know, but think about it. Do you respect the person who agrees with everything you say? Or the person who respectfully disagrees when they genuinely think differently? Do you respect the friend who's always available no matter how you treat them? Or the friend who has their own life and priorities? Do you respect the person who needs your approval? Or the person who's fine whether you approve or not? The answer is obvious when you think about it. We don't act like we know this. We act like we have to earn respect by being impressive, agreeable, and accommodating. And that's exactly backwards. So let's get practical. Here are the 3 psychological tricks, as promised, but they're not tricks, they're principles. And they work because they're based on how human psychology actually functions. Trick number 1, stop explaining yourself. The first principle is simple. Stop explaining yourself. Not because you're rude, not because you don't care what people think, but because over-explaining signals insecurity. Here's what I mean. You make a decision. You say no to an invitation. You choose one option over another. You have a preference. What's your instinct? To explain why, to justify it, to make sure they understand your reasoning so they don't judge you. Right? That's validation seeking. You're trying to control their opinion of you. And ironically, the explanation makes them respect the decision less. Let me give you an example. Someone invites you to something you don't want to do. Validation-seeking response. Oh, I'd love to, but I actually have this thing I need to finish, and I've been so busy lately, and I really should probably stay in anyway because I've been going out so much, but thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. Congruent response. I appreciate the invite, but I'm going to pass. Have a great time, though. Notice the difference? The first one is begging for understanding. The second one is just a decision. Here's what happens psychologically. When you over-explain, you signal that you're not confident in your choice. You signal that you need their approval to feel okay about your decision. And people unconsciously register that as weakness. But when you state something simply and let it stand, you signal self-assurance. You signal that you trust your own judgment. You signal that their approval, while nice, isn't necessary for you to feel okay about your choices. And that commands respect. This applies to everything, your opinions, your boundaries, your preferences, your decisions. State them clearly and let them stand. Don't justify. Don't over-explain. Don't seek approval. Now, I'm not saying be a jerk. I'm not saying refuse to communicate. If someone genuinely needs information, provide it. If they have a question, answer it. But notice the difference between answering a question and seeking approval through explanation. One is communication. The other is validation seeking, and people can feel the difference. Here's the practice. For the next week, pay attention to how often you explain yourself when no one asked, how often you justify your choices, how often you add disclaimers and qualifications to soften your statements. And then stop. Just state things and let them land. You'll be shocked how differently people respond. Trick number 2, embrace disapproval. The second principle is harder. Stop trying to be liked by everyone. In fact, actively embrace the fact that some people won't like you. And be okay with it. This sounds simple, but it's actually the hardest thing you'll ever do. Because your brain is wired to avoid social rejection. It's a survival mechanism. But here's what that instinct does to you. It makes you change yourself to fit different people. It makes you hide parts of yourself you think might be judged. It makes you perform instead of just being. And everyone can feel it, and it kills respect. Let me tell you what changed my life. I stopped trying to manage everyone's opinion of me. I started stating my actual opinions, even when they were unpopular. I started setting boundaries even when it disappointed people. I started saying no, even when it made people uncomfortable. And you know what happened? Some people didn't like me anymore, and that was okay. But the people who stayed, they respected me more, way more, because they knew they were getting the real me, not a performance. They knew I wasn't agreeing with them to keep the peace. They knew my yes actually meant yes, and my no actually meant no. This is backed by research on authenticity and social relationships. Studies show that authentic behavior, even when it creates conflict, builds deeper trust and respect than inauthentic agreeability. Here's the key insight. When you try to be liked by everyone, you're liked by no one. Not really, because nobody knows who you actually are. They're interacting with a chameleon who changes based on the room. But when you're willing to be disliked, when you're willing to state your actual truth, even if it's unpopular, something interesting happens. The right people respect you more, the wrong people fall away, and you stop wasting energy on relationships that were never real anyway. Now, again, I'm not saying be intentionally abrasive. I'm not saying pick fights. I'm saying stop hiding yourself to avoid disapproval. If you disagree, say so respectfully. If you have a boundary, state it clearly. If you have a different perspective, offer it, and then let people react how they react. Some will appreciate your honesty, some won't, and that's the whole point. You're filtering for people who value realness over agreeability. Those are your people. Here's your practice. This week, state one opinion you usually keep to yourself. Set one boundary you usually let slide. Say no to one thing you'd usually agree to out of obligation. Notice what happens. Notice who respects you more, not less. Notice how it feels to stop performing. It's terrifying at first. And then it's the most freeing thing you'll ever experience. Trick number 3, validate yourself. The third principle is the foundation for everything else. Stop looking outside yourself for validation. Start providing it yourself. This is the root of everything we've talked about. You seek external validation because you don't have internal validation. You need other people to tell you you're okay because you haven't decided you're okay. But here's the brutal truth. No amount of external validation will ever be enough because you don't actually believe it. Someone compliments you and you think, they're just being nice. Someone respects you and you think, they don't really know me. Someone values you and you think, they'll change their mind when they see the real me. The problem isn't that you're not getting enough external validation. The problem is that you don't validate yourself, so external validation feels empty. Here's what self-validation actually means. It means you decide you're worthy, not because you've achieved certain things, not because certain people approve of you, but because you've decided it. It means you evaluate yourself based on your own standards, not someone else's scorecard. It means you're proud of yourself for trying, not just for succeeding. It means you're okay with yourself even when you mess up, because you're human, and that's allowed. This is the hardest work you'll ever do, because your brain will resist it. Your brain will say, but I need to know what others think so I can improve. And yes, feedback is useful, but there's a difference between considering feedback and needing approval. Here's the practice. Every day, acknowledge one thing you did well. Not because someone noticed, not because it was impressive, just because you know you showed up as the person you want to be. Maybe you stated a boundary. Maybe you were honest when it was uncomfortable. Maybe you did your work with integrity even though no one was watching. Acknowledge it, out loud if you need to. I'm proud of myself for that. This feels ridiculous at first, but it's rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself that your opinion of you matters more than anyone else's opinion of you. And when you genuinely believe that, everything changes. You stop performing, you stop explaining, you stop seeking, you just show up as yourself. And ironically, that's when people respect you most. Because respect isn't given to people who need it. It's given to people who already have it for themselves. Let me bring this home. You've spent years trying to earn respect by being impressive, by being agreeable, by being accommodating, by seeking validation. And it hasn't worked. Because that's not how respect works. Respect comes from congruence, from showing up as the same person regardless of who's watching, from stating your truth and letting it stand, from being okay with disapproval, from validating yourself instead of needing others to do it. This isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about being solid. It's about knowing who you are and not apologizing for it. Will everyone respect you? No. And that's the point. The people who matter will. The people who don't weren't your people anyway. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice these 3 principles. Stop explaining yourself. State your decisions and let them stand. Stop trying to be liked by everyone. Be willing to be disliked for being real. And validate yourself. Decide you're worthy and stop looking for someone else to confirm it. This will feel uncomfortable. You'll want to backtrack. You'll want to explain. You'll want to smooth things over. Don't. Sit with the discomfort. That's growth. And watch what happens. Watch how people start treating you differently. Not because you're being fake, but because you're finally being real. If this resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into psychology and human behavior. And drop a comment. Tell me which of these 3 principles is hardest for you. Let's talk about it. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to respect yourself. You just need to decide. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.